Hey, welcome back to Sweet Home Chicagoland. This is the channel where we celebrate all things Chicago suburbs and the people and places that make Chicagoland such an amazing place to live, work, eat, and play. I'm super excited to be back doing the podcast. The podcast grew out of the pandemic over this last year, and thankfully, we've been able to get the web series going again. So if you've missed out on that, make sure you log on to the channel, sweethomechicagoland.com. Check out what we're doing in the video space. But today on the podcast, I'm super excited to have a local entrepreneur and business owner. She's doing amazing things for businesses all around Chicagoland. So let me introduce the CEO and founder of Go Girl Communications, Patti Minglin. Patti, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got started, how Go Girl got started. A little birdie told me that you got into it by accident. So tell me what that means.
Yes. And well, I liked working for companies. Like I didn't like set out and say, gosh, I can't wait till I can be my own boss. Like I really enjoyed working for people and, selling their wares, I guess you could say. But I came up through the newspaper industry back in the day when we had newspapers that,
Right.
opened up. For all of you younger listeners out there, there was this time a long time ago. But I came from the newspaper industry, and I always say my last real job was I worked at Chicago Parent Magazine. I was the associate publisher there. Loved it, loved everything about it. But for me, it was I had children, and they were growing up, and I was commuting, and I needed to be back home with them a little bit more. At least I felt that I did. So I thought I'm just going to start writing from home. I have an English degree that I never really quite used very well because I always was in sales and marketing. And before I knew it, I had companies that I just started working with on content. It was really when the internet was around for sure, but it was really at a time when people were using the internet to really tell their story. They were really into what content do I use on my website? How can I utilize this better? And so I just happened to have the skill set at the very right time for the internet taking off. And that's what I started doing. And before I knew it, I had a company, and the name came up in a coffee shop in Oak Park with my friend Tom DJ. I'll give him a little shout out. My friend, he's a very talented graphic designer, and I was with him having coffee and got a phone call for a conference I was going to, and they wanted to know the name of my business for my name tag. Like this is how high end this is, name tag. And I thought I can't go to this conference with it saying freelance writer. So I came up with the name, and Tom doodled on a napkin part of the original logo, and that's how it was created.
That's about as organic as it gets, right?
I know, really. Like everyone's like, "Oh, did you do a lot of research?" I'm like, "No, I checked to see if the URL was available." That was like the most research I did on it.
I love that. Well, it's interesting. Your story in getting the business started kind of it just leads me to think of something that you and I just talked about off air, but that's your story. And like we said, it was organic. It just grew out of, a need and a space that you kind of filled, and it just kind of happened. And
Hmm.
you just mentioned to me, that's how a lot of people's stories are. There's not necessarily a big focus group or big powwow. There might just be something in someone's story that you can use to help grow their brand. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is exactly right. I mean, I always say that the brand story is this part that businesses often overlook, but it's so important because it combines your why with your what. So it takes all of that reasoning for why you do what you do, and then brings together with, okay, what is it exactly that you do? And it's somewhere in that mix that you find these nuggets of what it really is that makes you who you are and makes you unique. That's going to be your competitive advantage. That's going to be what you use in social media to get people to really resonate with you. It's that kind of story. And like for us at Go Girl, I always think the fact that I am kind of an accidental entrepreneur and I just stumbled upon figuring things out. Like I didn't know what QuickBooks was back in the day. Like I still am not proficient with it at all. But I think the fact that I stumbled along makes us really resonate with other female entrepreneurs who are just starting out, and female entrepreneurs who are scaling their businesses. And there is this feel of, sometimes you do just kind of happen upon it and you get what that is. So I would like to work with you on that. And we do, at Go Girl, we do specialize in brand stories. So there is a reason why I love the brand story even more. But the brand story and then helping people use that brand story in different ways. So it's there, everyone has a story. And the good part of your story is not like how you started and where you ended up. It's that middle. It's all that crap in the middle. That is really good. That's where your golden nugget usually is.
So, I love marketing. Obviously, it's a part of my world as well. And I'm fascinated by how this connection with businesses has grown. I mean, gosh, I can't remember the stats, but it's like 80% of social media users follow a business online. And to think, you mentioned, you came from the newspaper world. And when I was studying marketing, I was, this was not the infancy of the internet, but certainly not where it is now. And there were still very traditional ways of doing things. And I don't think at that time, the prior, 50 years of marketing leading up to maybe a decade ago, I don't think there was that kind of a connection necessarily between consumers and businesses. I mean,
Yeah.
there might have been some brands, where people super identified, right? I'm thinking about, people with their cars, or people with their clothes, those are, and food, certainly. But, this brand affinity just seems like it's increased so much. Why do you think that is?
I I think what you said, like the way that the internet has really kind of invaded our lives in a way, it's made consumers super smart and savvy. Like they, no longer, back in the day, and again, I feel like for all of you younger viewers out there, like if you were going to buy a car, you went to the car lot and you started studying based there. Like that's where you
Yeah.
started. You walked into the dealership. Now, by the time I walk into a dealership, I've already researched everything.
Yeah.
I know exactly what my car is worth. I know exactly how much the car is I want to buy. Like I've already done all that work. So now you as the salesperson, you've got to really meet me on a different level.
Mm,
It's no longer just talking to me about the features. I got all those.
yeah.
You got to talk to me about what it is. Why do I need you? Like what
Yeah.
is making you different? And so I think consumers have just gotten so smart because information is everywhere. Everywhere. And that comment you just made about social media, I still have businesses that'll be like, I don't like social media. I don't want to be on it. And I get it because it can take a whole different direction. But I always tell people that the conversation about your brand is going to happen with or without you. So
Amen.
if you choose to not participate, it's still going to happen. So you might as well at least be available to participate in this conversation and lead it the direction you would like it to go.
That's right on the head, because one of my favorite business coaches, Tom Ferry, always says, he's a real estate coach, and real estate agents a lot of times, do things the old school way, and they'll say, well, I'm just not into video. I'm not into social media. And he just says, nobody cares. Like,
Right, right.
nobody cares that you're
Yeah.
uncomfortable with that. The market will just pass you by if you're not
Gosh.
able
Yes.
to jump into that. And you're right too about people have this information. So it's almost like you're right. Before you met people at the front door, right? That's where you met your customer, when they walked up to your business on the street, or maybe it was a phone call, but still
Mhm.
it was a personal interaction with someone representing your business.
Right.
And, maybe there was some signage involved, or maybe there was some printed marketing materials, but it was much closer to you, where now people are engaging with your business way out in front of you on the
Oh
internet.
my gosh.
And
Yes.
you the good news is you have control over that. But like you just said, if you don't take control of it and you don't craft it the right way, that story is going to be told, and it might not be the story that you want told.
Right. Because you're not there to defend yourself. And I tell this, I do a talk sometimes for teenagers, and I'm always about posting on social media
Mm,
because they just will post anything. And I always say, you need to think about what you post because people, when they go to your Instagram page, that's the story they know about you. And if you have pictures that are not great, and they always are like, yeah, 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 but I wasn't really at a party. I
Mm,
was really, and as a mom, I'm always like, yeah, okay, but I got that. We know you weren't really there. But they don't care. You're not there to tell them that that wasn't a red Solo cup of beer in your hand. You're not there to say that. So they're going
yeah.
to just judge you right then. And that's the same with businesses. Like if you have a website that isn't mobile friendly, somebody has been to your site on their phone, because most people are now Googling and working off their phone. And if they can't get to your site, they're done. They're like, okay, well, forget it. I'll go to somebody else. They're going to just go to somebody else. They're not going to spend time trying to figure you out if you haven't figured you
Yeah. No, you're right. The attention span,
out. Ugh,
and it's not like a youth thing. It's just all of us, because
right.
we're busier. We're more productive than ever. So we're doing things, you know, we're I mean, gosh, you're holding the baby while you're making dinner, while you're, checking your your email,
Yeah.
like all kinds of things. And people only have so much time and energy to give to it. And if you don't catch them right away, and this is the same in any industry,
Oh my
it's
gosh, yes.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, so tell me a little bit about Go Girl and some of the core services that you provide to your clients.
Yeah, so we are a branding and content company, and we work with companies to discover that brand story and to create it. But then sometimes I think the most important part of it is that we help them figure out ways to use that story effectively.
Mm,
So you just said it, like there's so much out there, and people, their attention spans are short, and the communication channels we have like multiply by the day. And so you have to really figure out, how do I use these channels in a way that's really going to resonate with my audience? So we do a lot of that, whether it is helping you create copy for your website or help you with your website, or social media. We do a lot of social media strategy where we help people figure out how to utilize the content they usually already have. People are always amazed that they have content. They're like, I don't have anything. But then we'll like go to their website, and you can make gosh, you've got these great statistics. We could make that into an infographic, or
mhm.
you could chop up this really long blog that you wrote, chop it into pieces, and use that, as a in social media, or use it as a mini little video presentation or something. So we really try to help them use the content they already have, as well as create content. We create a lot of content, but we like to utilize what you have and give that way.
Perfect. Are there certain types of businesses, certain industries that your business tends to work with, or is that kind of all across the board?
Industry wise, it's across the board, but we do tend to gravitate towards female entrepreneurs. Probably not shocking, because our name is Go Girl Communications and because of my background. But we do tend to work a lot with female entrepreneurs, and that is, we work with men. I always need to say that. I'm not a man hater.
Men
I
don't have to
think
run away.
men don't have to run away. We love working with them. I always say I'm married to one, and I raised two of my three kids are men. So I'm good. But we do tend to gravitate towards women, and there's a myriad of probably reasons why, but one of them is the reason that I think women start businesses is when they become an entrepreneur. They didn't wake up, they're like me. They didn't wake up saying, I want to be an entrepreneur. It was,
Mhm.
they saw a need in the marketplace. They saw as they needed a solution to a problem, whether that was a problem they were having, or they were looking at the world and saying, this is a problem and I want to solve it. And so there's a sense of a greater good when they're the businesses that they're creating, and that is something I personally gravitate towards, like people that are looking at a bigger picture with the mission of their company.
I see that everywhere in the world. I think, like you said, it's grown out of, you know, without being, getting into the sexes in here. I just see most of the women in my life, and I'll speak from my experience, are more community oriented
Right.
than most of the men I know. That's not to say all on either side, but
Right.
the beauty of that is like, I see my wife and she's just very in tune with what's going on with her friends, whereas half the time I'm oblivious to what's going on with my friends. And so she, like, you see, they can, you can, maybe sometimes women can feel that need in the community
Mhm.
more and understand what is being underserved, what market needs this. And then the beauty of it is then a lot of times there is that built-in community. And so what I see a company like you doing is harnessing that power and focusing it. Is that fair to
Yeah.
say? Where
No, that
there's this
is.
raw organic growth, and you're saying, perfect. You've started this, you've gotten it in front of a group of people, and now we're going to refine it.
Right, right. And that's exactly it. And that is, and because of that thing with, and you're right, I think there is this, I like that you said that they feel the need. I think that's true. I think it is a very intuitive, it's a feel. I feel like something needs to happen. And it becomes such a deep feel that they can't get rid of it. Like, I got
Mm,
to do something with it. I got to see this. And because of that, sometimes women entrepreneurs do not feel, they still feel like outside of the entrepreneurial network.
mm.
Like, they don't feel like they quite fit with what the traditional entrepreneur is. And so, and that you could say that with the network of support or network for finances. I mean, there's still a deep divide in gender when it comes to getting capital and investors for your company when it comes to women.
Yep.
So we try to at Go Girl, because we work with so many female entrepreneurs, we like to connect them to each other. Like, we want to help build that support system because they are all doing things that are going to change the world in big and little ways. And if we can bring them all together, like, I just think, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. And again, not to get, this isn't men versus women, but there is a really great book um, called Half the Sky. It was written
Mm,
many, many years ago by a New York Times columnist. And it talked about like all these studies that were done that when women and mainly they were looking at countries and communities, when women were given education, money, and influence of whatever kind, the all the people in those communities were better. And not just the women, not just the children, men were better, economies were better, they were better. And so women tend to look at how can I, I'm going to give back or I'm going to do something to make other people's lives better, not just make me rich or make my life better. Like, I want to do it for other people.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to deny you say it's correlation, causation, whatever, but the explosion in the U.S. economy and what's happening in our country since women became more of a big force in
Right.
the workforce, 50, 60 years ago. Um, I'm curious, what are some of the challenges? And we could probably talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but what are some of the unique challenges that female entrepreneurs have?
Well, I think one of them is that kind of being outside the network and trying to find your footing. I always tell people, like, the lessons that I've learned, I guess, is, find your tribe of people. Like, you
Mm,
do need to build a support system, and not just your friends. Like, friends are awesome, but you need cheerleaders, but you need people to hold you accountable. You
mhm.
need people to push you forward, because there are a lot of spaces that you just may not know. And so you need to have people to push you there. And I think men just do it better. Like, not that men, but I think men just do it innately. Like, they just build their networks. They just go out and they know, they bring in people that are like them into their circle. And women just, they're getting better at doing it, but they don't necessarily do it innately like men do. And I also think that the hardest thing for me was to talk about myself in a way that, like, to promote what I was doing, like to
Mhm.
say, hey, this is cool what I'm doing. Don't you want to be a part of it? Again, I think men just, I don't know if you guys grow up learning this. I don't know. But you just tend to be okay with, tooting your own horn and saying, yeah, this is why I'm really great. And I've noticed this the biggest time I noticed this. So my husband, he's in sales, and we were at a fundraising event, and somebody asked him they asked the two of us what we did. And he had this beautiful thing about being part of a multi-million dollar company. And he like went on about it. And the whole time I'm like, I mean, you work for the Chicago division of this company. Like, you're not part of the corporate, but he really was part of this big corporation. And they didn't need to know that he was just worked in this little area. When they asked me, I downplayed the fact that I owned a
Mm,
company. Like, I made it sound super small.
mm,
And like, oh, it's just this thing I started. Like, it was almost like a hobby. And it wasn't. And when I heard the two of us answer that question, it stuck with me the whole night. I thought, this has been the challenge. I'm not used to having to step forward and like living into what it is that you're doing and being proud of it, because for some reason it always seemed like I was bragging, or I was, being too cocky or whatever. And that wasn't the case at all. Like, I would say to any woman that is starting her own company, get comfortable with talking about yourself, get comfortable with moving into those spaces, because the reality is you are your chief sales and marketing officer.
Hmm.
You're it. And even when you start getting staff, you still are going to be the person that's out in front, and you got to start getting really comfortable with that. And I think it's something that, and I don't even think it's just women, female entrepreneurs. I think women in general need to get more comfortable. They need to embrace the ambition. I think I'm totally stealing that phrase from Tory Burch, but it's true. Like, you need to embrace that and live in it and be happy and proud of what you represent.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's a lot of truth in all of what you just said, and I do think it just goes deep. I mean, listen, until I got married, I wasn't aware of most of this stuff, and the closer I've gotten with my wife and learning more about, her, the way her brain works and what she's dealt with. And I think absolutely, I think there's just, again, none of these things are 100%. There's exceptions
Right.
to all these rules, but I think, yeah, I think men are probably just taught to be less um, risk averse, and like you said, more, just throw yourself out there, and a lot of times, looking foolish in doing so. But that's how we win. I mean, that's how people win, is by, sometimes taking risks, again, calculated if we can. But yeah, I think that's great advice, because nobody cares about you more than you. That's
Gosh,
the reality
yes,
of it, right? And
that is the reality.
I love that you said get plugged in with other people. And I think every business owner, entrepreneur needs a mentor. Um,
Yeah.
Someone who, and that's what I say to, people who ask me like, oh, I want to get into real estate. How did you do it? I said, the first thing I did was called, 5 of the top real estate agents in Chicago and said, how did you get in? What did you do? Tell me about what made you successful. And that's the same way to do it in really in any industry.
So smart. And do that. Like, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Like you said, look at who's the best
Yeah.
and just call them, because I love when people call and say, "Hey, can we just go to coffee, because I'm thinking of starting a business."
Mm.
I love that. Like, anything that I can tell you, any mistake I made that I can share with you so you do not do it, is great. And I also just want you to know what it really is like. Like,
Yeah.
those people want you to know, like, this is how you do it. And that's the best way. And those are connections you keep forever.
Oh,
Like, you can
absolutely.
keep those connections forever.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Business Boutique? It's a
No,
So do you
but
know the Dave
no.
Ramsey organization?
Yes.
Okay, so Christy Wright is an author and a speaker, and a champion for female entrepreneurship, and she's a part of his company. And it's interesting. It's all about what we're talking about, how a lot of these female owned businesses kind of spring up and then need some direction. And so marketing, like the services that Go Girl's providing, is a huge part of that, honing your story and being able to get it out to the right people. One of the other things they talk about is, just the operations of the business. I think a lot
Oh,
of that's any entrepreneur, right? Not just women. I mean,
gosh.
people could have a
100%.
good idea and a charismatic personality and a great product or a great service, but they have no idea how to run a business.
No, and you don't know that. Like, if you like, I never ran a business. I ran departments, I
Yeah.
managed people, but I was only seeing a tiny small part of what it was like to really run a business. And don't be afraid of what you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know something, find out, like, ask people. Like, one of the lawyers I work with, she knows that I will sometimes just like video call her and hold pieces of paper up, to the FaceTime and be like, okay, what do I need to do with this? Like, is this something I need? And she's like, all right, let's, like, you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
and it's okay. And I think that can be part of your strength, what you don't know, because you also are going to walk in, and this is walk in and change things. Like, you can be a disruptor. You don't have to do things the way everybody else has done it. You can actually walk into a space and change the way it's being done.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what some of the biggest businesses are
I
made.
know.
Yeah.
I know. Think of some of the ones that are out there. I mean, look at Amazon.
Yep.
Or Google. I was just saying this the other day. Somebody was trying to find a name for their business and they really love this name, but they said nobody will know what that even means. And I go, nobody knew what Google meant. Like back in the day when Google created their name, and now we use it
Right.
as a verb. Like
Right.
I'm going to Google it.
I love that. So, Patti, if I'm a local entrepreneur, business owner, and I'm looking for some direction and again, creating my story, getting better content, connecting with the right customers, clients for my business, how do I get connected with you? And do I, if I'm just, just me, it's just me and I don't have a
Hmm.
team and I'm not pulling in, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Is there still services that you can provide to help me
Oh
grow?
gosh. Yes, absolutely. We work with the big and the small, and our big thing is we meet you wherever you are. Like our tagline is your story starts here, and we mean wherever you are. So if you're just beginning and you wanted to start having the conversation to, I'm a really successful company and I can't keep up with the amount of content I have to create. Like wherever you fall, we will meet you wherever you are. So you can just go to our website, gogirlcommunications.com, and all of our contact information's on there. You can reach out to me directly. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a horrible LinkedIn responder, so if I don't respond to you right away,
Me too.
I will get to you sometime that week. And social media, we're big on Instagram and Facebook, but Instagram is really the place we like to play the most. So that's where you will find us more often.
Awesome. Patti, thank you so much for giving us your time today and
Thank
sharing
you.
with me.
This was great. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, can't wait to hear some of the success stories. I'll definitely be following on social media, and for anybody who just wants to make it easy, we'll go ahead and post the links in the show description below. So be
Great.
sure to follow Patti and Go Girl, and be sure to follow Sweet Home Chicagoland, and we will see you guys next time. Patti, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.